YouTube, it's here, finally. The NX10, the NX8, and previously the NX6, okay? So we're gonna talk about this today. The reason we're talking about this today is because we recently announced that we were gonna go with the NX10, formerly, when we were doing the Carbon Z Cessna T28. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna get this stuff onto this, and we're gonna show you just a couple of the highlights. We already talked about it briefly at the beginning of that video. Features and good stuff like that. Now, why did we go with this? This is the first question I'm gonna answer. I've answered this numerous times, so if you've already heard the answer, my apologies. If you watched the Carbon Z unbox, build, and radio setup, you would have seen some of this. But the reason we went with NX10, which really the only difference between the 10 and the 8 is a couple sliders back here. It comes by factory default with the bigger battery, the 6,000, as opposed to the 2,000, okay, milliamp hour. Comes with this little quick charge coupler, which is nice. So when you plug in, you can just use that to go into the micro USB, which is nice. And it does kick on. There's a little light. You can see that lights up. It's blue. That comes stock, which again, if you add up all that stuff, it ends up being a really good value. But it also has Hall effects gimbals, which is supposed to be a little bit smoother and better operation. I gotta say, so far, I can't tell a difference. And then of course, you don't even add any switches, guys. All you get is the additional channels, okay? There may be some additional mixing and things I haven't figured out. It's not gonna make a difference in my life. So I'm not gonna talk about what doesn't make a difference in my life. What does make a difference in my life is the additional channels. Auxiliary 4 and auxiliary 5. Okay, that's critical to me. It's critical in our application, but really the reason we're staying with the NX lineup as opposed to the offer to go up to the iX14, which most of you have been like, Brian, you're an idiot. Do the iX14. Well, hear me out. If you're an iX14 proponent, then I understand you want it, because I'm gonna help you guys set things up as we go through. I mean, it's not an overly difficult process to set these radios up, but if you're brand new to the hobby, you're gonna need some help. Translating from this to this is like nothing. It's like butter. This and this are gonna function exactly the same, with the exception of the fewer channels, and in this case, without a knob, okay? Or in this case, without your sliders, okay? Now, if you don't know what sliders are just a means of controlling the additional channels, just like a stick. So it's an analog slider, and it gives you just a little range of motion, as opposed to a switch where it's like, 2 or 3 position, okay? So at the end of the day, our decision was driven by what our audience needs from the radio setup part of the Unbox Build radio setup, which is a large part of what we add to the hobby, as opposed to some of our competitive offerings on YouTube, some of our peers that do, reviews for Horizon or reviews for, Tower Hobbies or AMP or whatever. I mean, the people that are doing stuff for Motion and all the different companies that we would like to work for that we don't currently work for, the people that, just do this in this space. They don't generally go into such detail on radio setup. So that's one of our specialties. And so we figured if we got rid of the NX and we went up to the iX, then we would basically be catering to an even smaller niche of people that are really laser focused on aviation, fixed wing, and helicopters. And so we said, let's stay with the broader audience. Let's try to keep as many people impacted as possible. So that's what we were thinking. Also, most people that are new to the hobby are not going to dive into an iX14 or an iX20. Generally, people are going to advance to that after they have extinguished all the capabilities, which is what I'm going to recommend you do too, because that's what I started with. I started with I was a DX5i, I think, and then I went to a DX4, and then from a DX4, I ended up getting a used DX8. Then I bought a brand new Gen 1 DX18, which I still have, by the way. It's in a case, but the case is not there.
Oh, it's not there.
And I loved it, and I never looked back. Then later, when we started with Horizon, and just to be clear, guys, when we started with Horizon, they said, you know, most people are going to start with the 6. And I'm like, really? That seems like it's not enough to do anything. And I was so wrong, because the 6 did almost everything I was doing with my DX18, and it did it better, which is crazy, guys. I was a huge naysayer. And then later we jumped into the 8 to get that additional full channel, and then that partial 7th channel that you got with the 6. You may have noticed that this thing is sort of disappearing. It's going to eventually disappear altogether, and then this is going to be the kind of the pseudo replacement. By the way, I don't tell anybody to get a 6. I tell everybody to get an 8. Sorry, I have timers going off. If you're going to get into this and you've got a DXS that came in a ready to fly, or a DXE that previously came in a ready to fly, just skip that step, save your money, go to the 8 or go to the 10. But I'm just going to tell you right now, you'll eventually end up in the same place we are, which is with the 10. But I'm going to be full disclosure here. We have only hit 3 models right now where we really needed a 9th channel. So it is an irregularity. And previous to this, previous to the work on the Horizon and working with a bunch of these bigger companies where we end up with a lot of planes, I had one plane that had 10 channels. And then I had one plane that had 8 channels. It was very unusual. But at that time, we didn't have forward programming, and we didn't have the auxiliary channels that were used for master gains and for safe and AS3X on off the way that we do now. So when you're driving a 6-channel receiver on this, you can run those 2 additional channels, because all the AS3X and safe equipped receivers have additional channels in the top end that you can't necessarily do anything with. They're not pluggable, but they exist, okay? This is gonna allow us to tap into more of those, for instance, when we're using an 82 or an 8360T. So you may have noticed we don't ever use 8360Ts. And that's because we can't tap into all the channels, because even though we have pluggable channels, we can't do anything with them, because we need to keep those reserved for AS3X on off, safe on off, and master gains. Gain. So we get screwed. So thus the NX10. Yep. So that's our rationalization for this. Now, you guys may not be in a place where you need the 10. You're just doing bind and flies right now, or you're doing, you know, like FMS planes where you're throwing in, you know, like an AR620, and, you know, you got your fixed gear, you know, like the PA18, for instance. You're not going to need that channel for retracts, so you have your mode built into the AR620. Or like what we did on the smaller, the 1400 millimeter FMS T28, we were able to use an AR620, and we were able to command thrust reverse by tying it into our flap channel. That's highly unusual. We got lucky. It doesn't always work that way, but we were able to do it. And it took some doing, by the way, but we did it, and we showed you how to do it. So, but then you flash forward a little bit to this Carbon Z Cub, which is a bind and fly, and it's a 6-channel configuration, but we're doing everything we need on the NX10, but we don't even need those top channels. So just to be clear, the additional 2 channels are gonna be for the variants that require us to jump into that next echelon, like the F-16 Thunderbirds 80 millimeter. We ran out of channels on that one, and I was annoyed with that one. You may have noticed if you watched the unbox, but that was an early release, and we did not have documentation, and the product development team had unplugged and moved some plugs, and we were like, what the heck do we do with this? And we were in a very, very, very tight time frame, which you guys don't always understand. We get the planes, and then the video's published like 2 days later. And our internet's slow, so it takes 2 days to upload. So we pretty much have no time.
And we have weather.
We're in Iowa. We're not in Arizona. No. We're not in Florida.
I don't know why we're not, but we're not.
So yeah, maybe someday. So another thing too, I just wanted to point out on the 6, if you're curious, you'll notice that says DX8. This says NX8. This is DX8, not NX8, just to be clear. This came from my DX8, and I use it with that because this didn't even come with a lanyard. And it came with the smaller battery, but we upgraded it to the bigger battery, okay? So, and I usually sneak a bind plug in there, by the way. So we were totally satisfied with this until we started running out of channels. And that happened pretty quick. We were like maybe 40 planes, 50 planes deep. And ironically, we made the P51 1.2 June night V1 with that. And then we did the V2 with this, which is pretty cool. So anyway, we may need to be a little bit careful because, oh wait, we should have released the unknown plane.
Yes.
Because this will go out probably this weekend, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Or like before our next unbox.
Yeah.
So really, and you guys already know this, but we do some early releases for Horizon and some other companies. And so in this case, this isn't like an early release or anything, but we're just gonna plop this right in front of the next unbox build radio setup that's plopped right in front of the Maiden. We used to have them all as one big video and our retention rate got killed because of that, so we don't do that anymore. So getting into the details of the NX10. So what do we need to do? We need to get all the goodies because as you know, if you cancel them back, you can see we only have one plane in here, okay? Now you may also notice I have scratches on my screen on both of these right there. Looks like a smile. And then right there is not so bad actually on the NX6 because we didn't have it as long. And guess what? This protected the screen, whereas this scratches the screen over time. I think it's actually the plastic that hits it. So when you guys see me touching the screen, that all adds up to scratches. I always take the protection off. If you don't take this protective covering off, you will eventually have it burn on there. I know you don't believe me now, but just wait long enough and you'll find out I'm right, because it'll actually start to look like crap. But you can get a little bit of time out of this screen. So what's the first thing you have to do when you set up a new transmitter? Generally, you're not gonna be like, oh, I've got a new plane, I gotta set it up right this second. Well, we did that with the Carbon Z, the Carbon Z T28. I hate saying that name. It's the CZT28.
Yeah.
So normally what I would do is I would click and I would go down to the system setup and I would disconnect RF. Of course, the orange light shuts off. And you scroll all the way down to the, where is that thing? Is it under Wi-Fi setup? There's Wi-Fi utility, so I would start with that. And then this transfer SD card is where we're gonna do most of our work, okay? So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually turn this one on and transfer everything to the SD card so it's on the SD card. Now, this is a micro SD card, it's big. I think they say it can only be so big and ours is bigger. But if you open this thing up, there's another one right in the middle of the board too, like right somewhere in this area. So if you take this apart, now, why do I know that that thing's in there? Because I know, but also I've taken it apart because I dropped my NX8 on the ground, okay? And this broke. Also, full disclosure, I had one issue where we went out in the rain one day and I got water into my scroll bar. So this is actually my second NX8, okay? And I broke that and I fixed it using a switch from one of our many, it was a...
DXS.
No, it wasn't, yeah, a DXS, that's right. Or a DXE, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I switched it and so I had
switch out.
and I didn't realize this, but this is a higher quality switch. And it's a really popular switch, so don't drop it and break that thing, okay? Now, some of you would have taken it, shipped it to Spektrum, had them repair it for you and ship it back. That's what we would have done with my scroll bar, but we didn't have the time, like our production was just back to back to back, and so Horizon was like, we'll just give you another one, get it set up and go, okay? Rather than shipping in. They offered to fix it, and I was like, I don't know if we can do that because we had some new releases going. So anyway, full disclosure, we always try to be totally truthful with you guys, but stuff does happen, okay? So the scroll bar was doing that thing where it would scroll over time and it got a little bit worse over time and we just could never really resolve it. So they offered to replace it or, whatever. And so Spektrum is good about taking care of people on stuff like that. This one I broke myself. So, and that was on my first one. I dropped it off the counter and broke it. So anyway, getting back to the point, we have to actually do some more work on here. So I'm gonna hit cancel and back and I'm gonna go down to, I'm gonna click this and I'm gonna go down to system setup. I'm gonna disconnect RF and I'm just gonna go all the way down to transfer SD card. Now this is gonna give you a bunch of different choices and I'm gonna go click here and then just go over to model import export. And then I wanna select the option. I'm I'm gonna export all models. This may overwrite files. So export to the SD card. Okay, so now it's transferring. Now this takes a while. We got like 150 of them. So what you're thinking is like, look at that little teeny bit of progress, right? And you're like, how can it take that long? Guys, they're huge text documents. And yeah, I know you IT guys out there, whatever, it's just a text document. Yeah, but it's a huge text document. And so it's like multiple kilobytes per file. And the write speed on this is not gonna be very fast. So don't expect too much, but you see this right here? Now this does come with built-in Wi-Fi, so you could probably come up with some other way to do it, but I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna put it in the USB and be done with it. So now there's also, I wonder what this USB settings, access internal storage, mode, inhibit, game controller. Oh, that's cool. Look at that. I have no idea what that does. But anyway, so transfer SD card. So this is where we're gonna then go into this and we're going to import, but I want, see how that says 0? That is the root directory for the actual internal, for the internal drive. So this one was going to 1:/ /. So the directory for this is different than the directory for the internal. Well, I haven't put a memory card in here. And so when we're done with this, I'm just literally gonna put it over here. Now, the other thing you have to do is you have to register your product so that you can actually assign it to you in case somebody steals it or they find it and then they reach out to Spektrum and like, hey, I found this thing. And note to self, don't steal somebody's transmitter because they're registered, and it's just, that's a dick thing to do. So don't do that. You know, if you're gonna steal something else, don't steal their transmitter. That's like stealing the keys to somebody's car, but not the car. Like, at least steal the car with it, you know? It's like, geez. So anyway, so SD card, it says internal, external. You see how it changed that? Internal, external. See, it changes the directory there, and it tells me that there's nothing inserted. Okay, so we're good there. So we're not gonna really worry about that yet. So while this is still transferring, good Lord, we're gonna go to Wi-Fi utilities and we're gonna connect to networks. So now there's full disclosure, I don't want my security at risk, so we're just gonna be a little bit careful how we film this. So I'm gonna go connect to network, and I'm just gonna cover the screen, checking for network. So it says twiddling thumbs, it says Wi-Fi settings. Okay, great. Now it gives me a list of all my connections. I'm gonna scroll to the one that's mine, and then I'm gonna type in a password, and I'm just gonna show you. So it shows my account or whatever, and then there's a password. So I'm gonna type in my password, and we'll be right back. Okay, so this is another stupid thing in this format. You see how it types the password. So you've got this cursor here, okay? And I'm using the legacy keyboard. I already turned that on. And what's gonna happen is, like, why do they have PW : and then you're not typing right after it, you're typing below it. So yes, this is the first character, okay, right there. So when you're done, you can scroll all the way over.
That's kind of weird.
And it disappears, the cursor goes away, all right? So just be aware, don't worry, you're not the only one who's confused. We were confused the first time too. So I gotta type in, I'll be right back. Okay, so I typed my password in, and now I need to scroll all the way back and then just click when it doesn't have anything on like it takes away your keyboard. So you click, and then it brings up your password there with just dots, okay? So now I'm going to inhibit auto connect. I do not want it to auto connect in our application. You guys might want it to auto connect. I don't know. It just depends on your network environment if it's gonna work. So I'm gonna hit connect. Now it says obtaining IP address. Now it says connected. That's how quick it went. So we got the blue light here. Now I'm gonna hit continue. Now it comes back to a screen that I can share, login, register, deregister, check for upgrades, erase credentials. So erasing credentials is gonna erase anything that's attached to your Wi-Fi here, okay? Not necessarily. It's also gonna like your login gets stored, so it can automatically log in, okay? So I'm just gonna pull away from the camera here for a second and go to login. So now you have to type in your username and password. Now remember, this is not horizonhobby.com. This is Spektrum.com. So it is a different username and password potentially, depending on how you set your stuff up. So I am gonna go find that because I have no clue what it is, and then come right back. Okay, so I typed in my username and password, and no, I can't show the screen, so I'm gonna click login. twiddling thumbs, and I'm sure it's gonna pop up with like my social security number and date of birth or something like that. So I have to be a little bit careful, but it says twiddling thumbs. That's what it does. Now, sometimes, and I've had it happen to me personally, it will stall out in this setting. If you put the wrong password in, sometimes it does too. Also, I wanna show you this. While this is done writing to the external card now, so it just goes back to that when it's done, okay? Right, so we should be fine there. So basically at this point, I can just shut this off. Now, I want to tell you the worst part of this whole process, and that is just because you're copying stuff from here to here does not mean that you're bound to every plane, which sucks, because that means you're going to have to rebind to potentially like 150 planes if you have 150 planes in there. Now, this is still twiddling thumbs, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit back, and I'm going to go log in, and I'm going to change my password to the other one I had. There's two passwords. There's one for the regular Spektrum RC, and then there was one for firmware. So I got to pause and try that one. Okay, so I'm going to try it again. And you're like, why are you trying on camera? Just try off camera. Well, I want you to be able to see what happens when it happens. I would love to show you this and make a fake account, but I didn't do that. I didn't think that far ahead. Login. So twiddling thumbs happens, and it takes a little bit of time. And just keep in mind, it's not like this is, you know, like Google's search engine, okay? So it's, you know, you're going to Spektrum RC. It's not going to be like some gigantic, huge server.
It's also
might take a little bit of time.
dependent on our Wi-Fi, right?
And our Wi-Fi is, yeah, but this is just logging in. It shouldn't be that big a deal. Okay. So at this point, this is where you just kind of have to be a little bit patient, because honestly, I don't know what password it's supposed to be, and I had two written down, so we'll see which one it is. Just remember, it's the Spektrum RC one. So the other thing too is it's kind of handy is if you go to Spektrum RC, you can go to your devices. And then once you get to your devices, you can see what you already have registered and all that good stuff. But I'm going to attempt to register this from my transmitter. And you can see how it says twiddling thumb or thumbs twiddling, but there's no status change here. Usually that kind of moves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit back, and then I'm going to just go, and I typed in the password, and then I went ahead and hit back. Now I'm going to try login again. Okay, now it's twiddling, but you can see it moves for just a second. If it stalls out on you, you might have the wrong password. But my understanding is it will actually say that. Now, just to prove my theory, I'm going to turn on my other one and just see if it logs in. Of course, I don't know what the password is because it's going to be marked out with asterisks or dots. So I'm going to go to Wi-Fi on this one. From system setup, not yet. Okay. I'll just tell you what's going on, guys. So we're going to go to Wi-Fi utilities. We're going to connect to network. And then it's going to select, so it says thumb twiddling. Okay, so I see three of them. I'm going to click connect, and it's going to attempt to connect. And it says obtaining IP address, and it says connected. Okay, so I'm going to hit continue, and then I'm going to go, see how this one, it doesn't have a login capability. See, because I'm already logged in on this unit, okay? Now, on this one, I'm not logged in yet, so I don't know if I typed in the password wrong or what's wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, and it allows me to go and highlight over login, and it allows me to go to register. So I'm going to just see if it'll let me go to register. I'm not logged in, so it shouldn't let me. So it says thumb twiddling. So this is one of the weaker points of this process, I must admit, because sometimes the feedback can be a little less than desirable. Now, keep in mind, I haven't updated the firmware, but you can update the firmware via USB if you really need to. So if you can't get this to go, you may have to update the firmware on the USB, and then the Wi-Fi utility should work better. Also, we use Starlink, and Starlink can be weird at DHCP. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. I'm gonna actually try to log in. I'm gonna try to log in, log out. Log out's not available. See how it skips over? So I'm still not logged in. So I'm going to try one more time. We'll see if this goes. Thumb twiddling. And you just have to be kind of patient. I've done this a number of times, and it has always eventually worked. And the 6 and the 8 both gave me this problems when we first started, and then eventually they worked. So if you want, we'll pause and we'll try the other password a couple of different ways and see if it goes. Okay, so I tried my password, the one I thought I had, then the other one, then the other one back, and eventually, while I was trying to do the login, it just happened. So yeah, spontaneously.
Okay.
But whatever. I mean, we wasted 10 minutes on that. Don't be surprised if you waste 10 minutes on that, because that's probably what's going to happen to you too. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We show the real truth. Okay. By the way, if you want to buy this thing, follow our link. You'll really help support us. And yes, it has glitches. So just be fully prepared for that. Okay, so log in, register, deregister, check for updates, log out credentials, erase credentials. Erase credentials is going to kick you off of this login when this is on Wi-Fi to Spektrum RC. Now, admittedly, my wife went into the room and she got onto the computer and logged into Spektrum RC. So maybe I was logged out on the server, but this one was logged in, so I don't know why. Okay, so anyway, it seems like a stupid, useless thing until you have it and you're like, that is awesome. Because having Wi-Fi on here means you never have to download anything to the SD card, you know, for firmware updates. And that's a big deal. So anyway, all right. So now that we're logged in, we can go to register. So now I have to pull the camera away. I'm going to click on register. It says thumb twiddling. Don't be surprised if you have to do a little dinking around to get this to work. It's not unusual in my experience. But once it does work, then things are all hunky-dory. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to register automatically into my account or if I'm going to have to go to my account now and then fill out. Nope, it seems to have done it. So and one complaint I got to say, and I think this has been resolved potentially on the 3.8 or whatever we're running. I'm on 3.06 right now. The thumb twiddling doesn't give you movement. So you can't see if it's still thinking or if it's jammed up. Sure, Spektrum has already addressed that, but going through the update process, you're going to have to see this stuff, okay? So register, now deregister, check for updates. Check for updates. It's going to check for updates, Airware 3.8, PT or something like that is the one that we're running. In fact, while that's searching, we'll just let that search. I'm going to go to this one and go to about, yeah, we're using 3.08, okay? So pretty good. All right, so check for updates. Now it says nothing, so I'm gonna hit back. I'm gonna check for updates again and just see what happens, because we're on 3.06 on this, I believe, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
We were?
That's, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. So on 3.06, there's not like huge amounts of things that change that I can tell, you know, from the user side, but there are lists available from Spektrum on all the revisions, what they've done, but it's not finding anything, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk all the way out. I'm gonna go back into the Wi-Fi, connect to network, thumb twiddling, and yes, this is what you have to do.
Well,
now I'm gonna connect.
All know that patience is one of your primary virtues.
With machines. Okay, so continue. Now I'm gonna check for updates yet again. And then we're just gonna do that. This is now gonna be like the third or fourth time. If it doesn't work, the other thing you can do is you can actually go to the Spektrum RC and you can download that onto an SD card, and then you can see it. Because as you can see, it does not seem to think that there's an update. Yeah, so that's always handy. And really, to be honest with you, I don't want to put that SD card in this because it's operating on 3.08 and this one's going to be operating on 3.06, so there could be some conflicts there. So we are going to pause and probably click check for updates a bunch of times, and we're going to go ahead and get ourselves prepared to put it on an SD card. We might even show you how to do that, so stay tuned. So the camera crew told me that I look weird just now, so you're welcome. So this is back. Obviously, it hasn't actually registered, or at least it hasn't updated here, because we have the 6, the 8, and the 8. Remember how I told you I had 2 8s, and evidently a couple of the sport receivers we updated, and then the DX18. So what I have to do now is register a new product. I want to see if that's maybe what's going on. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to try register again and see what might happen. Of course, I'm going to try to refresh this, but we'll pause until. All right, so once we got it to work up here, which took us like 3 times because our internet sucks. Look at this, check for updates. 3.08, 3.7017. Now also, if you look here, it says download updates. So that's where you would download your updates for your particular device, okay? So it says NX transmitter, okay? So that's that, all right? So we're gonna go back out in the other room. Okay, so now I'm gonna pick 3.080, okay? So now it's gonna do what it needs to do here, but just to be clear, the registration, okay, so now it's downloading. This is where you guys may experience more problems, okay? Since I've experienced problems with pretty much every step of this, and I'm gonna just be totally frank with you. I've experienced problems every time I've done it with every one of my receiver or transmitters, but I don't care. It's not that big a deal. It took a couple of times to download on the 6. It probably took us like 10 times on the 8. Eventually, I gave up on it and I downloaded it to, this is on my second one, to the SD card, and I was able to update it from there. And then during the most recent update, there was a couple of glitches on the 3.0717, which people knew about. It would go to a weird green screen, and it was like instead of just being an audible alarm, when you had a low voltage warning, it would go to some like splash screen, and the background would change colors, and it was very weird. I never had an issue, but some guys had issues. So I saw it, but it was never an issue for me because it just like went away as fast as it came, and I didn't even understand what I was seeing. So now, like, see, I disconnected, evidently. Now, that is probably not gonna be symptomatic of the transmitter. That's gonna be symptomatic of our Starlink. Anybody who knows Starlink means there's a constellation of satellites and you lose signal for short interruptions, which is very frustrating. So I'm gonna try to go back. I'm gonna go back to Wi-Fi, connect to network. It's gonna thumb twiddling. So really, if I was in town and I had a fast, cable connection or DSL or something like that, there's, wired connection, then we would be in better shape. This would be a lot easier. But now when I go to check for updates, it should, once we're reconnected, it should populate this. But just keeping in mind that we're in a bit of an uphill battle here. So some of the issues that we've experienced are probably on our end. So, okay. So it found 3.08, so that means we're connected. So just to let you know, it ends up being a relatively big file size. And what happens is you can see here the kilobits per second. And then it shows the time. Like I jammed up at 1% last time. So really, it's pretty evident that it's going this time compared to what it was before. But you can see that's 35 kilobits per second. So it's like, yeah, Starlink quotes what, 100 to 300 megabits per second down. So these are kilobits per second. So you got to remember, whatever our speed is at the house is going to really dictate what the download speed is through our Wi-Fi, and then furthermore through this. So you're not going to get some super fast Wi-Fi connection here. So I'm not expecting the sun, moon, and stars. I just do expect it to eventually work. Right. And we have always gotten them to work, by the way. So that's what you do. So we'll probably pause because it's at 22% now and still counting. I would show you the whole process, but I'm kind of guessing we're going to disconnect at some point. Yeah. We'll have to do it a couple of times. But once that's done, we'll come right back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I lost patience for waiting. We're at 32%. And what I meant to say was the moral of the story is you may have to do a combination, like especially if you're in a rural area and you've got crap internet, you may have to do a combination of being on the computer and being on the transmitter just to get everything to work more easily in your environment. In our environment, of course, we trust the computer connections a little bit more. We have wired connections directly to our Starlink. And if you're using like a mobile hotspot on your cell phone or something like that, you can actually connect to your spot, on your cell phone, which is pretty handy. Of course, we film with our cell phones. For those of you that weren't already aware, we're filming on a Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. Yeah.
That's all. Yes.
Plus.
Currently. We've only ever filmed on cell phones.
Yes. And then before that, because we get this question a million times, so we don't mean to bore you guys, but we actually do get this question all the time. Before that, we were on the Samsung Galaxy S9. Mm-hmm. Before that, it was the Samsung Galaxy S7. Yep. Then before that, it was the Samsung Galaxy S5. And before that, it was the Samsung Galaxy S3. And I used to have a helmet that I would wear. It was like the most dorky, stupid thing you've ever seen. And it hung the screen in front of me like this, so I could co-witness what I was doing, and I would film. And it was a miserable experience because it would make my neck hurt, and I do just as long of videos as we do now, except I would be sore. Physically, it hurt. And then, of course, my planes were hanging from the ceiling, and I didn't have headspace, so I would hit my head on everything. It sucked.
That's when you did mod videos.
Like the ASW28, not that one, but the one that come from Volantix. Mm-hmm. And we did that 3 times on this channel, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was back when our kids were little and they were napping, and that was my opportunity to film. And the camera crew was not with me all the time. So you'll notice that it's sort of slowed down. And it's sitting here at 60, but the elapsed time keeps counting.
So hopefully it's still going.
So hopefully it's still going to go, or it's going to pick off from where it left off. But I'm not making any bets on this, so we'll pause and come right back. So we now disconnected at 60%. So just to let you know, if you had fast internet, you probably wouldn't have this problem. But I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge that disconnect. I'm going to go back to a different utility this time, because ironically enough, I already have 3.08 on this thing. But I don't know if it'll work because this is the NX10. I don't know if it's exactly the same. But really what happens is from that website, it will actually allow you to download your updates. So let's show you how that looks. We'll actually walk in there together. Come with me, camera crew. And don't pay any attention to things back here. We're just gonna, wait, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Okay, all right, you can come back in. So the NX10, if you guys hear what sounds like some sort of like squirrel apparatus going on, that would be our kids hanging chairs. So download updates, so you would click here, so you need to be Johnny on the spot with this. We don't want to have to censor things. I don't know, it's just loading stuff right now. So this is one of the joys of
wait for our internet.
This is how you run a successful YouTube channel. You get super slow internet, so everything takes longer.
And then you make really long videos.
Yeah, that way you update. You have to upload a 480 gigabyte
that
file.
way your wife has to drive
That's
around.
like the size of people's hard drives. Okay, so now I don't know if you guys need to see all this, but it looks like there's a November 9. Okay, so you would download it here. So this is the previous one, public beta. This one looks like the one that they're suggesting. So download the spmtx.sax by clicking the download, save or copy the file to the SD. Do not change the file name. Put it in the root directory, of course. Okay. Verify the new version in the system setup, serial number screen in lower right. Okay. So I don't know if you have to type that in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll down here. Yeah, so it looks like they've just got the two. So I'll just show you what this looks like. We're going to download. So it's downloading it to my desktop. Okay, so that's the file. I took it off the desktop, put it right here. Okay. You can't really open it with anything because it's a .sax file. So you can't even try to open it with Notepad. I was going to show you what it looked like just so you can see. And it's about 753 kilobytes. So at this point, I already know it's the same Airware file. And because I already have the Airware file located on the SD card, I should be able to just use the one here. So you can either unmount the hardware by going in and safely unmounting. So you would click, this is the 8, we're going to the 10. So you can go to system setup, and I believe that is where you're going to go to USB settings and access internal storage, mode, game controller. There was some place it was unmount. And I can't remember where I found it. Transfer SD card. Okay, so you see this? See how it says mounted? Select option, update firmware. Okay, so there's some different things you can do, but I'm just gonna power this down, okay? You could probably just take it out while it's running, and 99% of the time it's gonna be fine, but I don't wanna find out I'm wrong because I have all my precious models on here, okay? So there's our little SD card. That's a 4 gigabyte. I think they tell you can only have like a 500 megabyte or something. I don't know. I put a 4 gigabyte in there because that's what I had sitting in the drawer. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna stick it in the hole. And you want the pins up like that, okay? It really only kind of fits one way. Oh, for God's sake. You gotta have like super dinky fingers. There it goes, it clicked. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to transfer SD card, and now it's gonna say external, select option. I do want to import the models, but I want to do
change the category first.
select option. Oh, that's right. Special function, update firmware. So evidently I backed up a hard drive at some point. Android secure. Pretty sure it's not in there. So maybe I took it off of this hard drive. Maybe I took it off. But I'm gonna go check real quick and I'll come back. All right, so I deleted the Android stuff on here. Evidently I used that in a phone once to like transfer something. And so it wrote all those files. So as you can see here, we have the P51. This one's just the removable disk that we just worked, okay? And then that's the one we just downloaded. And so all we have to do is just verify it's not already in here. So we have numeric sort, and then you can see this is the highest number. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go Control C, and then I'm just gonna click over here and then go to the removable disk. And I'm just gonna go over here and I'm just gonna right click and I'm gonna go paste. Okay, so now that's on there, okay? So now I'm not going to get too in depth here, but basically I'm gonna click on safely remove hardware and eject media, okay? So I'm gonna click that and I'm gonna eject the mass storage device on G because we also have like an external hard drive, okay? So now that's ejected, so I should be able to just pull this out, and then I've got an adapter and an adapter, okay? So just real quick, we'll get that laid out of the side, and we're gonna go put this into our device. Now this is if your Wi-Fi doesn't work. If your Wi-Fi is faster, or if you have more reliable network connection to the internet, then you should be fine from your internet service provider. But we also have a Starlink update, which we just noticed, of course, while we were doing this. So I'm just gonna pop this back in the hole. And you only have to do this like once in a blue moon. So it's like just long enough that you'll forget all the details. And part of the reason we show you the waffling in these videos, if you haven't already figured it out, is because like this is what really happens. So you can watch a video from Spektrum where they're like, look how easy this works. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. And I'm like, how come it didn't work for me? Because I'm a normal person. Okay, so here we go. Special functions, update firmware. Ah, there she blows. Now, this is the super exciting part. So this is where you don't want it to fail, okay? Because normally it would download it and then it would just start doing this. And this is like Microsoft style status bar. So that's like, oh boy, there it goes. Everybody died. No, it's just all part of the show here. It's just gonna do that like 150 times.
Till it's done.
Because I think what that means is it's like eliminating one from memory and then it's writing it back to memory. And, you know, so the status bar goes back and then it goes forward and then it goes blank and you're like, oh God, it died.
Status is kind of...
Except that it didn't, okay? So, and then you let it do this for a while. So a wise decision would be to plug it into power. If you were concerned that it might die and you might be thinking, how long is this gonna take, Brian? A while.
Okay.
So, since it takes a while, you'll eventually come back and it will just beep and start like normal. And you're never gonna know any better because basically the only thing that's gonna change is that when you turn on your unit, it's gonna come up and it's gonna say 3, or that's the 3.8. So you're gonna click and you go down to system setup, disconnect RF, and then go down to about, and there's your version, okay? All right, so that's basically what's gonna happen is it's gonna go from 3.06 to 3.08 in this case. And if you're watching this video and we're like version 4.3 or whatever, I apologize because some things will have certainly changed.
Right.
And then, oh, look, there it's writing. That's writing the records for each of the models. Okay.
So it's importing while it's doing both?
No, now it's writing the new records for each of the models, okay? So now it's evidently it was like
It didn't
not
like
happy
that.
about that one.
It's gonna undo it. Doesn't like that plane.
But yeah, so basically that's how it works. It's usually you do it all on Wi-Fi. You log in. You don't have to try multiple passwords, and you don't have to get on the computer at all. But you can do that as an alternative. In my case, once this is done, then we'll show you what it looks like. So stay tuned. Ding, ding, ding. It just came back just now.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there it is. And look, it even has a timer going. Oh, okay. That's like the lifetime timer or something like that for this model. So now I'm gonna click, I'm gonna go down to system setup, disconnect RF, and scroll all the way down to about, and you can see 3.08. Okay, yay, everybody's happy. So really at this point, now we should be able to go in and we can go to, actually we'll do it this way, cancel and back. Look, there's only one model in there, okay? So now I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna click, I'm gonna scroll down to system setup, I'm gonna disconnect RF, I'm gonna scroll down, transfer SD card. Now remember, I wanna import models. Model import. Yeah, it wasn't doing models.
No, it wasn't.
Sorry, guys.
It was just the.
Yeah, so select, okay, so model import models, all models, not export. That's going to the SD card. This is coming from the SD card. Okay, wait, it's going to be appended to the end of the model list, which means that is going to go at the end of number 1. What does that mean?
So every number is gonna be wrong. Are you gonna have 2 number 1s? Or is
Probably.
it gonna renumber them?
No, I'll take and copy it.
Yeah, and move it to the
So
end or
it's
something.
not really that big a deal. The other thing you can do is you can go in and modify, but look how fast it's going. Just like before, it's pretty much exactly the same hardware from what I can tell. So I work with industrial equipment for a living, and when I update firmware, this is the crap we deal with. I'm serious. It's even worse than this because there's problems in the firmware that we're updating to. And so we have to sometimes sidestep and go around, and fortunately, I'm the type of guy that gets a hold of the type of guys that know how to fix these type of issues. And so I call them and they help me when they're supposed to be helping their mother move or eating a banana on vacation or whatever it is that's happening. So that's why you have Brian Phillips RC on your playlist, or what am I trying to say, subscription list here on YouTube, is because we're gonna be that guy for you. And we're gonna help you figure out how to get your NX10 to behave, because chances are it's not gonna behave, because I've just been doing this long enough that you're gonna run into at least one of the hiccups we had. I hope not all of them, for God's sake, but
If you have Starlink, you might.
that's actually not unreasonable to expect. If you do, you'll be like, thank goodness he actually showed how it might go, you know. So anyway, transferring here, it's still less painful than building a Dyna model. That's all I've got to say.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So the NX8, the NX6, amazing lineup. Really happy with all 3 of these. Didn't know what I was going to think at first. I thought, you know, I'm making a big step down from the DX18 to the NX8 when I first got it. And I was wrong. It was really good, and I had really good luck with it. And once you do the firmware upgrade on an DX18 to get forward programming, you will see a marked slowdown in everything, because that is a buggy, huge software that's being plopped into that old first generation hardware. So now if you had a DX18 Gen 2, maybe it's not quite so boggy. I don't know if they changed processors in it, but I know in mine it's slow. But I can do forward programming in my DX18 Gen 1, which is pretty incredible. And that just goes to show you, if you're gonna buy the top of a line card, generally the support sticks around for a lot longer. If you buy the bottom of the line card, not so much. Eventually, when support starts to fall off for some of these devices, the NX, by the way, is the current main line, okay? So if you're getting an NX, you're getting the main line. The IX is the premium line, okay? It's the cream de la cream. It's the one that, like, you know, only the crazy people get. So, like most of you guys watching this now. So I am excited to potentially do some videos on the IX14 or 20 at some point, but I have to get one first. So when that happens, I'll alert you to that so you can be watching. But for now, we're gonna let this thing update and we'll probably wrap things up here in about, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. And it should be done. Now, our time investment on this video is not huge. It's negligible though. And so of course the camera crew doesn't love the stuff I do. And we hope that this type of content that's long format, no BS, shows the mistakes we make, shows the mistakes that happen, due to network connectivity issues, maybe server issues on Spektrum's end, Horizon's end. It doesn't really matter. The point is we operate in this real environment that's imperfect. And so for people that do tutorials, many times you find that they're gonna show it working right. I don't know why. I don't know how they get it to work right. Because if it works right, they wouldn't need people like me that go and fix stuff for a living and make a pretty good living doing it. And we wouldn't need guys like me on YouTube helping you guys struggle through some of these disappointing annoyances. But for those of you watching and saying, oh, I love my 72 megahertz. First of all, it might not even be legal to use that anymore because it's probably not FCC approved anymore. So just be aware. I could care less if it's legal. Do what you're gonna do. It's between you and God. But I'm just gonna tell you right now, this is all DSMX. It's all 2.4 gigahertz. It's all approved by the FCC. That's one of the things that Spektrum does is they get everything approved, and they have them approved in other countries as well. So if you're curious about this, if you're in Australia, if you're in New Zealand, things like that, you can check if you care. But the point is, Spektrum is very good about following the rules, and so you don't have to worry about getting this and finding out it was all illegal to begin with, like what happened to Hobby King with their orange stuff. So just to be clear, and by the way, I use some orange stuff too. Never really had a big problem with it, but I just preferred lemon. If I was gonna go cheap, I'm gonna go even cheaper than orange. And lemon was the ticket for that. And we still use them to this day. And we've always thought they were pretty good. But anyway, Spektrum would probably hate to hear me say that, especially when I'm reviewing their thing. But our loyalty is with you, the audience. Even though we have good relationships with Spektrum, we have good relationship with Horizon, the mothership. We have good relationships with FMS. We have good relationships with Banggood and the other different companies that we work with. And we don't really pull any punches. We try to bring you guys the full truth and nothing but the truth. And of course, there can be opinion rolled in there, a lot of it, and a very thick, hearty dose of it. But when we do this stuff, we don't do it to sugarcoat and say that this is the best thing since sliced bread. We have had really good luck with them, though. I mean, arguably, we use them a lot.
Yeah.
And my only complaint was that when I had my first NX8, the scroll wheel basically failed because I got water in it. Okay, so maybe don't get water in it. Also, I'm not complaining that I broke the A switch. That was totally my fault. So if they fall off the counter and they hit right and it breaks the switch, I've dropped it twice and that was the only time I actually broke a switch and I was really disappointed. But I was able to fix it myself. It wasn't a big deal. NX6, a little disappointing to run out of channels. But we got a lot of use out of this. I mean, you're talking a couple seasons worth of use. And for the price point, save your money, get the 10. Save your money, get the 8, okay?
Yeah.
You're gonna be supported longer by Spektrum too.
You're a heavy user though. I mean, like we use our
Are you calling me fat?
Well.
But, yes, I like it. It's been good. It fits my hands well. It's not egregiously heavy. I like the way the lanyard hits my neck. There's a lot of things I like about this. I must say though, one of my complaints on this model and every model therein is that I have a hard time hitting my trims compared to on the DX18. I don't know why, but I do. I have a lot harder time actually physically getting to the trim buttons. And I don't know if it's just because the way I hold, I'm a thumb gripper. I don't do this, I don't do that. I don't and I'm sure these guys aren't trying to look cool, but I see that and I'm like, you're just trying to look cool. No, that's the way they learn to hold it. I hold it like this because that's the way I learned. So I have access to certain switches that the pincer grippers are gonna have easier access to that maybe I don't, okay? So personal preference issues aside, I feel like the gimbals are phenomenal. I feel like they're very adjustable. I have adjusted. I have helped people adjust these. My NX8 is getting pretty loose here. And I noticed that I can tighten that. It's very easy. I don't want to tighten it because this is going to be a secondary controller for me now. Also, I have to rebind every single plane, which is going to suck bad.
But in terms of size-wise too, like our son flies on the 6 and he doesn't have any issues with it.
But our little kid would not
he
have as
struggles.
easy.
He struggles more.
He would not be able to reach.
Yeah.
Batman controller for him.
He is learning on the simulator on the DXS. What comes with the simulator?
It's similar to these.
Yeah. And he is learning on that to get
But
his
he
muscle
tends
memory,
to
but
he tends to hold the sticks out because it's easier for him. They don't relax to the center.
Yep.
And that's what you'll find. So if you get the Batman controllers of yesteryear, they work really good for that.
And
but
he's
they're
5.
they're SLT2 usually.
Yeah.
So they're not usually DSMX. And if you guys are new to the hobby and you don't know what I just said, it's just code word for different protocols, and protocols meaning the transmission and reception protocol. Because remember, these things are not just transmitters, they're transmitters and receivers for telemetry. So you have full duplex communication, but you're predominantly communicating out and you're secondarily receiving data back. That's why you have an antenna built into the handle and an antenna here, which can be folded all the way down. That makes a big difference in storage, by the way. Back on my DX18, this is a fixed antenna. It's, it's still pretty big. It's actually bigger than that, but it doesn't stick up quite as much. And I really like the way it was, but boy, you try to put that in a box or a bag, or if you pack it in your luggage or something like that, it's very tight. Because that antenna takes up a lot of room. Also, these things are notoriously difficult to transport without damaging, so I've made a couple of different renditions of boxes and things like that to transport them. And then we have a hard case that Spektrum, of course, sent us, but they're expensive. But if you had to ship them overseas, or if you were going on a long flight or something like that, you could put them in the case. And those hard cases will protect them. Like if you have to go through customs, or if you have to go through TSA inspections, things like that. And be aware, there are batteries in here, so you may have to declare those if you transport them in an airplane. So just be aware of that. What other questions that people are going to have that I haven't thought of yet? How do you use them? How do you do mixing? How do you set up a model? These are all answered in the Unbox Build radio setup, which is something we do for virtually every plane, any plane that you see out here, and then we literally have hundreds more downstairs, helicopters and little airplanes. Sometimes we do planes that are ready to fly and there's not much setup, like that little Coast Guard heli,
Or this guy.
or that guy. Yeah.
Yep.
That's basically a ready to fly plane. So we pull them out of the box and they're ready to go, which is going to become a thing of the past with remote ID coming into full force. And guys, with remote ID, let's just try to work together. I know Flight Test is working, the FTCA is working right now. They're trying to get us to send letters to our legislators, so representatives and 2 congressmen, right?
Yeah.
So if you send letters to your representative and 2 congresspersons, then you can say, hey, this is what, they have a form letter you can send. They're encouraging them to kick the weight limit from 250 grams up to 1,000 grams, which would be 1 kilogram, so about 2.2 pounds, 2.27 pounds to be clear, which would be a huge improvement. That 250 grams was totally arbitrary and made up. It's arbitrary and capricious is exactly what the rule states. Arbitrary and capricious is supposed to be disallowed from regulatory use. But anyway, arbitrary and capricious rules are what the FAA does, so get used to it. It sucks that we're in this regulatory environment, but do everything you can to be compliant, but not roll over, and you guys have to strike the balance there. I try not to get on my soapbox too much about this because it really pisses me off. And the truth is, if you can get your site approved as a FRIA, that's the best way to do it. Secondarily, if you can comply and put a remote, transmitter, this little device that doesn't exist, go ahead, please tell us where you're getting them so we can get them too. But for people like us, we got hundreds of vehicles, like that would be impossible. And even if they were cheap, so it's only $5. It's only $5 now. Multiply that times 400. That's a lot of money. And so people in our situation is, you know, we're a unique situation, but there's other people that are like us too. And so we're not the only people in the world that do this and have, you know, a lot of planes. So it's just really stupid. It's textbook arbitrary and capricious rules. So really, my thoughts on it are we need lobbyists that need to be out there that kick ass and take names, and we need to pay them. So that means we're going to have to cough up the dough. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know who's going to do it, who's going to lead it off. It's not going to be me. But the thing is, I will help support that cause when we get to that point. And I still think we need to get some celebrities involved because celebrities move legislation. I know it sounds ridiculous and it's stupid, but that is the reality of the world we live in. Grassroots effort in this size, we don't have enough people, I don't think, to really impact. So write your legislators, see if you can get their attention. You probably won't. You'll get a form letter back, I guarantee it, because I've done it before. I do it every time this stuff comes up. And I get just lip service. So hopefully, but we live really close to our representative. Like, so maybe I could just go knock on his door. That would be super inappropriate. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you know, we're here in the United States, it's supposed to be a free country. And, you know, they're really encroaching on freedoms. You know, it's just getting egregious. You know, we went to war over tax on tea, for God's sake. So here it is. King George, you know, our list of grievances was not anywhere near what we deal with every day. But now they're going after our model aircraft.
Your choice.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we are. So as you can see, this is going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And we're probably just going to let it go because it's not going to change anything. Now, the cool thing is that SD card can go from here to the next one or whatever. I'm going to just basically leave it in here. This will be my primary one. And every once in a while when the models are done, I'll go ahead and write them and just export the models over. And it just takes a little bit longer as it gets bigger and bigger. And, you know, this one, for your information, still works. It still has all the models in it. And until such a time as the backup battery and the pack battery dies, then you would be fine. And I believe it's electronically erasable memory anyway. So you have to apply electricity to erase some of the memory on here. And I believe that's where the models are stored in EEPROM, double EEPROM, E squared PROM. I also have many models on this, but I stopped copying them over just because there was no real reason to do it. But it is frustrating when you go out to the flying field and you're like, crap, which transmitter did I use? So my suggestion is to get with the current one you're using and then get everything bound up so that when you get to the site, you're not like, why is this thing not initiating? I have the right model picked. And that does get confusing for us because these things look so similar, they feel so similar, and it's going to be hard for us to remember, except for the fact that we know that the Carbon Z Cub was a good breakpoint, and it's or I keep saying the Carbon Z Cub, the Carbon Z T28 was our breakpoint. So we've covered a lot of topics tonight. We know that you guys are here supporting us. This is a type of video that only the most sophisticated viewers are going to watch, obviously, and our most loyal supporters are going to watch videos like this because they're the people that really get nerdy and technical. And that's what I like about doing this stuff. So hopefully we've helped to answer a few of your questions. If we even remotely helped you, if you got a chuckle out of one joke, smash the like button. It helps us. Long format really gets punished by YouTube. They say they want you to do long format, but they really don't want you to do long format. They want everything to be shorts, everything to be soundbite length so that they can steal all the copyrighted value that you had in it and they can put some stupid music to it and, ooh, let's put a catchy tune and then give no value. You know, that's useless. Let's open some landing gear and waste time. No, we're here to bring you real value, answer real questions, and give you real advice. And hopefully it's not empty. We certainly put a lot of effort into it, and we know that a lot of you guys give us really positive feedback, and then a few of you we block. So keep it coming. But at the end of the day, yeah, please don't. But at the end of the day, we do enjoy doing this, but it's a lot of work. So if you want to help reward us, what you can do is when you do decide to make a purchase like this, or a purchase like that, or maybe just a small purchase like, ooh, finally, I gotta show them the thing. Gotta show them the thing. That thing. That thing. It's this long. Oh. We finally got foam to foam. Amazing. Foam safe, foam to foam.
It's improved. Was it improved before?
This is improved?
It's
Does it taste better? okay? They're similar. So I'm just gonna say that. But we did finally get it because my old tube was squished totally flat and completely consumed.
And I still had to convince him to throw it away a few minutes ago.
Whatever, I threw it away voluntarily for once. That was the first time ever.
You asked.
So if you guys wanna help support us when you do buy goods like that, you buy them through the links. We have master links down below. And if you can't find the link you want, sometimes, you know, in certain environments we run out of room, or we have maybe certain conflicts that we're trying to avoid and we're trying to keep people happy. So if you can't find what you're looking for, just head over to brianphillipsrc.com, which is the domain we run, and it is our website. We also have bprc.me as our short link domain. So if you see a link and it says bprc.me, it's probably genuine. I'm sure somebody else could make a link, but it would redirect somewhere else. Anyway, if you don't trust the redirects, we had somebody ask a question the other day. They're like, you know, I work in IT or something to this extent, and I don't really like the data being shared with these different people. Well, it's kind of hard for the companies we work with to track that you came through us to purchase at Horizon Hobbies domain if they don't know where you came from. So the click-through process is how they collect information to know that we get paid, the commissions we get paid. So while I understand your concern, this is speaking directly to the questioner, we probably can't fix that. And we already get a fair amount of accommodation from a few of the different companies we work with just to try to streamline certain aspects of certain things. And I'm not gonna go into more detail publicly, but at the end of the day, we make small commissions when you buy this stuff through our links. And if you don't buy it through the links, or if you want to buy more stuff once you're on the website, then there should be a cookie that lasts for a certain period of time, and it varies from vendor to vendor. So like if you follow this link to the NX10 and then you want to buy like an extra backup battery or something, which I wouldn't, by the way, or you want like another strap, or you need, you know, you want another one of these things or whatever, you can buy that all once you follow the link, you're set. So you don't have to like leave the website and go to a new tab or something like that. Just follow the link and, you know, put it in your cart when you're ready to purchase. You can go back and search for more and keep shopping. We'll get credited for that. And we appreciate you thinking about that to ask. So that is a very common question we get asked. And I know a lot of YouTubers say that. In our case, it's true. I can't speak for others, but we do get that question probably 2 or 3 times a week in different variations of it. So when you watch the videos, it helps, but it's like the smallest little teeny bit. Buying the stuff, you win, we win, the manufacturer wins. It's the trifecta of winnage. So that's what we really want to do. And we want to help support people by preventing them buying the wrong plane when they first get into the hobby. But then also, if you're coming back to the hobby, you have the skills, maybe you have the muscle memory to fly and to move the sticks and to control the plane, but you don't know anything about safe, you don't know anything about AS3X, and what the heck is a stabilizer, what is a flight controller, what is an ESC, what is a brushless motor, what is a Metal Gear servo, what is a sub servo, micro servo. I mean, these are the types of things that we just go over in the context of our videos. But you do have to watch the context of the videos. It's not like we have a video for like questions about servos. We have some of that in our non-plane playlist if you need some help on chargers and questions about batteries. But in the Spektrum playlist, we actually have a lot of these questions addressed as we go too. So as usual, leave your questions in the comments below. You can leave comments also as well, but it is harder for us to keep up. If you want to be a Patreon, that's the other big way you can support us financially. But if you guys want the real rundown, the fee structure is probably the highest on Patreon, but it's very easy. Also, Patreon helps give access to us for questions and comments because we see them. The notification service still works because we've only got, you know, like double-digit people there. Whereas we got, you know, like hundreds of thousands of people over here on the YouTube environment, and then over here on Facebook, we don't reply to comments, not because we don't like you guys, we just don't have time. We don't. Instagram, same thing. Direct messages, once in a while we'll make it through. My wife will be checking for hoochie mamas trying to throw themselves at me, which happens all the time.
Really weird.
So she gets that, intercepts them, and then murders them. Oh, you don't? Sorry,
I just block those people too.
But anyways, so the Instagram and the Facebook, we don't really reply. They basically point you back to where you are right now because we want to get you guys watching the good content here. And also for those of you that are just like, hey, I'm not sure I'm ready to take the plunge, but I'm really interested. You know, we got suggestions for beginner planes and we include like an RC simulator at the bottom. It's not like the best game you've ever played. It's not a game, it's a simulator, it's a tool. And if you're looking at it like a video game, you're gonna be disappointed because you can get a lot better video games. The simulator is a simulator. It's a tool. Our kids play it, but they enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you know, like we're just nerdy like that. But if you're really like a gamer, you're gonna think like this is lame compared to like some of the stuff that you can get. But it is a tool, and I just want to stress that. So if you get that thing, it's not super cheap, and it's not like maybe the most graphic thing you've ever seen, but it is good as a tool, and you will save money on airplane crashes if you use the simulator. Mm-hmm. But I needed to learn from pain and suffering personally. As an adult man, I needed the real distraction. I needed the real pain. I needed the real suffering. I needed the real wasted time when there was a crash to help my endorphins teach my brain how to be, you know, be better. And we'll help you work through that stuff too if you're brand new. Also, if you're returning and you want to know more about the technology things, you can ask questions down below. We do have an About tab if you have business inquiries, and we do reply to them as best we can. We get back, usually it's a couple days to a week turn time on emails about business inquiries. We're a little quicker if we know it's coming. And the comment section is not a good place for business inquiries. If you have like a question or comment or ID or something, like you can always throw it in the comments. But business inquiries, click the About tab, go through the robot, whatever it is, you know, like type whatever, however many stop signs you see, or I don't even know what they're doing these days on YouTube.
It changes.
So since this is like never going to be done,
you can talk a lot, but I don't know if you.
I think we're no, and I'm not just trying to fill the air. I'm pretty much just making sure I touch on those topics because when we do these reviews, is a perfect time for us to have some of these discussions. Yeah. And also, you know, I think some year we might try a live, but like our internet here is so poor, I don't know that it's ever going to really work. And I know you guys would probably like that. But if you'd like to see a live and you're still watching this video at this point, you must be really invested in us. So if you'd like to see something like that, like me and Megan could maybe do that. Maybe we could like go to the Mexican joint and get some margaritas and do a live. But I don't know if that's a very smart idea now that I think about it a little bit more, drinking alcohol on camera. I don't think we can do that.
What?
I don't think we should do that.
Probably not. That's probably true.
So anyway, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to smash the like button, click the bell for notifications, subscribe. Oh, and then, hey, did we turn on the join or whatever that thing is yet? I know the super thanks are there, and we got super thanks, which is awesome.
I know, it's so fun.
So, and
we don't have membership set up on the channel.
Maybe we'll set that up, and then we'll do like...
we could do like Q&A, like people could submit questions and we could do a video. Then it's not live. Then we don't have to worry about internet. I don't want to disappoint people on a live.
Yeah, because the lives. That's right. Yeah, because if it goes down, it's like, well,
we're gone.
Yeah.
But we could do like a Q&A.
We'll think on that. Guys, leave it in the comments if you want to see more of that. Give some ideas of what you think. And we'll be here back with some more footage. I mean, this is obviously going to take like the rest of the night. And I have some tacos I got to make.
You do.
Because, you know, the camera crew already told me what she really thinks of me earlier.
So now you have to make us breakfast burritos.
That's right. And they're going to be delicious. Mm-hmm. So
they'll probably be done by the time before.
Yeah, I don't they might be done when this is done. So I don't know if we're going to take a clip when this is done or not. But basically, you've already seen what it looks like when it's done. It's going to look exactly like this one. And the other thing is, when you create a new model, it does take a little bit longer to create. You'll notice that. With whether it's an NX9, NX10, NX8, or an NX6, they do get a little bit slower on the create new model step. But everything else works the same, so should be fine. All right, guys, that's all you get. Thanks for watching. And there is new content coming. We have huge amounts of content coming because we literally we have an insatiable appetite. We are gluttons for punishment for you on Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for watching.